Over just some of the basics of inverse functions. So how we use notation for them and some things about their domain and their range. So if a function is one-to-one, then it has an inverse, and we call it f inverse of x. So the notation, you remember f is just like its name, and to let you know that's the inverse of x, we put a little -1 kind of as a superscript. Now it's not an exponent. You have to be very careful to know that it doesn't mean 1 over f of x. It's not an exponent. It's just a name. Okay, so just like f was the name of a function, or we call it g of x, h of x, whatever. F is just a name. F with the -1 just means f inverse. Okay, so let's do an example. Remember we saw earlier in the videos we had the function f of x equals x plus 4. And we talked about its inverse being x minus 4. Well, then we would say f inverse of x equals x minus 4. Okay? And remember when we first talked about inverse functions, and we talked about if we looked at it as a table, we would switch the x and the y values. Well, what that really means in terms of domain and range is that the domain of f is the range of f inverse, and the range of f is the domain of f inverse. They switch. Okay? Now, for our example functions here, for f of x, our domain and our range were both -∞ to infinity, which means for f inverse, our domain and our range would both be -∞ to infinity. But we'll see in other cases that, when they're not just -∞ to infinity, that they switch. Okay, and here's how we can talk about the graph. The graph of f inverse is a reflection of f across the line y equals x, okay? Let's look at the two functions we had here and see what that means. So we're first going to graph x plus 4, which we know is a line with y-intercept of 4. I'm going to go up 4 and slope of 1. Okay, now -4 would be here. And these are parallel lines, even though I'm not great at drawing this freehand. But the line y equals x is this line right here. And what we're saying is that we've reflected it. We've kind of gone this way and then reflected it just as much over. Okay, so that's how we'll talk about graphs of a function and its inverse.